Good morning, students. The topic that we'll discuss today is reflection of light. Now, what do you mean by reflection of light? Now, first thing is that what is light? Light is a form of energy. It is an electromagnetic radiation which enables us to see various things. Now, light undergoes two phenomena, that is, one is reflection, another is refraction. Now, we are dealing with the reflection. Now, what is reflection? Reflection is a process or a phenomenon in which light rebounds or bounces back to the same medium. Means, if the light is coming from the air, the light again returns back to the same medium, that is the air. Suppose the light is coming from water, then the light will return back to the water. That light is called reflected light. Okay, so if suppose a light is coming from the air and it enters to the water, that process, that phenomenon is called refraction. When there is a change in the medium, then that is known as refraction. And when there is no change in the medium, if there is only the change in the path, then that is known as reflection. Reflection is nothing like if you take a ball and you hit with the help of the ball, you just throw the ball and the ball hits the ground and returns back to the air. Then that process is known as reflection. So reflection is bouncing of the energy or the light particles. That phenomenon is called reflection. So over here you can see the diagram of reflection, the process of reflection. What is happening over here is that a light is incident on a point of incidence and then it is getting reflected. There is one mirror over here placed and the incident light strikes the point of incidence and reflected back to the same medium. Now over here the light, suppose the light is coming from air, it is striking the surface of the mirror and returns back to the air. This phenomenon is known as reflection. Now over here in reflection diagram there are three points which has to be mentioned. One is the incident ray, number two is the reflected ray and the normal. Normal is just perpendicular to the surface. From the point of incidence it is just a perpendicular drop. It is an imaginary line. It does not exist. Now the angle between the normal and the incident ray is known as angle of incidence, and the angle between the normal and the reflected ray is known as the angle of reflection. Now this angle of reflection is denoted by angle R and angle of incidence is denoted by angle I. So you need to mention that over here is always true for the reflection that angle I should be equal to angle R. That means if the angle of incidence, that is the incident ray and the normal, the angle between the incident ray and the normal is 30 degree, then the angle between the reflected ray and the normal should also be 30 degree. The angle, this is the condition, this is the law which has to be true for all the case of reflection. Whenever the reflection takes place, the angle I should always be equal to angle R. Now over here when you do the diagram, what you need to mention? One, you have to mention the mirror or the reflecting surface. It can be mirror, it can be any reflecting surface from where the light is reflected. Next, you have to mention the two rays, incident ray and the reflected ray. Next, you have to mention the normal. And next, you have to mention that angle I and angle R, that is the angle of incidence and angle of reflection. And you have to say that angle I is equal to angle R, which is one of the law, and in the diagram you need to mention this one. So the next topic is laws of reflection. Now there are two laws of reflection. The second law is already discussed. It is that angle of incidence should always be equal to the angle of reflection. This is the second law. And the first law is said that the incident ray, the reflected ray and the normal at the point of incidence all lie at the same plane and at the same point. So the three things that is the incident ray, reflected ray and the normal, these three will always lie at the same point and at the same plane. This is the first law. And the second law says that the angle will be equal. That is, the angle I should always be equal to angle R. If these two laws are obeyed, then only you can say the light is reflected. So the next topic is type of reflection. There are two types of reflection. One is diffuse reflection or irregular reflection. Another is regular reflection. When reflection occurs on the surface of smooth surface, then that is a regular reflection. When it is a rough surface, then it is an irregular reflection. So if it is a smooth, then it is regular, and if it is a rough surface, then it is a irregular. And next is what? If the light strikes a smooth surface, it will return to the same medium and it will be parallel to each other. The reflected rays are always parallel to each other and it returns back in a particular direction. So if it is a smooth surface, if it returns back to a particular direction, and if it is a parallel, that means it is a regular reflection. In irregular reflection, what happens? The light is scattered. It goes in different directions. That is known as an irregular reflection. This occurs due to the rough surface. When the surface is rough, when the light strikes, it returns back to the different direction. That is known as an irregular reflection.